Welcome back. Now, during the pandemic, the restaurant industry was served a heavy blow, with restrictions taking a toll on the sector. Post the pandemic, the industry is dealing with a constrained consumer due to high interest rates and the inflationary environment. This, however, has not stopped a restaurant chain, Tasha's, from expanding into London and the UAE. Natasha Sideris, who's founder and CEO of Tashas Group, joins us with an assessment of the industry under the current economic climate. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, Natasha.
Thank you for having me, and I'm sorry about my unconventional space. I'm busy designing chairs and I'm at a metal factory in town.
Absolutely fantastic. All in a day's work. And Natasha, I'm actually keen to find out on whether we've recovered from, I'll call the PTSD of COVID-19, and how the sector is faring post all of it.
So we've been very blessed. I think we did very well just post the COVID pandemic and during the pandemic by rationalizing the business, and we certainly carried on with some of those lessons in terms of a rationalized menu and just streamlining all of our processes. We've had a nice double-digit growth in some of the stores last year. The first quarter has been pretty flat. I think people are waiting to see what's going to happen with the elections. And obviously there's a lot of negativity at the moment, but we remain cautiously optimistic. I think, the brand's 19 years old, and I think just by virtue of keeping our operations really nice and neat and organized and always spending money on our restaurants, we've been able to weather the storm. But I do think that it's becoming more and more tough for restaurateurs to make money. There used to be a time where your food cost in South Africa would sit at about 35%. You're lucky if you're sitting at 40%. Some restaurants are even struggling and hitting at 42, 45%. And then there's very little meat left over to make a profit. Rentals are increasing, labor costs have increased, and rightly so. And then you've got to deal with the gas and the power issues. So all of the costs up on the rise, but you're unable to increase your selling price. Just because of what the market can afford, which is unlike a place like the UAE, where when your baseline costs increase, you're able to adjust your selling price to the consumer because they simply are able to afford it. So I think tough times ahead, but still cautiously optimistic. I think if you're serving a good product and you're offering value for money, I still think that there's lots to be done in South Africa. Certainly Tashas as a group, we're going to open a couple more. We've got Alex X coming up soon. We're looking at opening another one in Sea Point potentially, and we're looking at areas like Somerset West as well. So certainly not all negative, but I would say operators have got to really keep an eye on controls, and any absent-minded or absent-bodied restaurateur that thinks they can run their restaurants remotely are in for a rude awakening, because if you don't have a control on your expenses, there's going to be very little left at the end of the day.
I thank you for that, Tasha. Thing certainly giving us a very comprehensive picture. I want to speak a little about expanding into the UAE and London. I think you've already touched on the environment in the UAE. Let's talk about London, how that's been, of course, a huge restaurant market there, but also costs there are very, very, very tricky.
So London has been the toughest opening of our lives and quite a humbling experience, but I think there's big lessons to be learned from London that we'll then bring back to South Africa and the UAE. It's one of the reasons I didn't want to enter the market in the early days, and I chose the UAE as the first place to open outside of South Africa, as opposed to the UK, because of the high barriers to entry. Those have become even worse post-Brexit. Labor is a major, major issue. Food costs are on the rise. Inflation's on the rise. We're doing extremely well in the location that we've chosen in terms of our turnovers and our numbers. We're very, very blessed. But, the model is having to be tweaked so that it can be profitable. And only once that model is absolutely perfect will we then decide whether we are going to expand in the UK. Because, turnover is vanity, profit sanity. So tough market, very tough. And it's certainly been an amazing experience to see the support from the South African customers that are living in the UK and those from the UAE that have supported us. So no issues on turnover. We're serving 300-400 people a day during the week and over 650 people on the weekend. But it is not easy to make money.
I must also ask you,
very tough.
about innovation here, Natasha. It does sound like the environment has called for you to dig deep as a restaurateur and as somebody with a global business here. You spoke about rationalizing the menu, streamlining some of your processes there, but also trying to keep that menu, good, Tasha standard as we understand it there. How has that been?
So in the UK, because we make all of our food on order, that's put a big pressure on us in terms of labor, because labor is such a major issue in the UK. One, finding labor. Two, keeping labor. And then, of course, very expensive labor. So I think for us, menu engineering is going to be very important coming out of this first quarter. We're looking at how do we cross-pollinate ingredients, but still maintain the freshness, and not start making stuff in a central kitchen. So that's a big one for us in the UK. And we probably will see, because of the rising food cost in South Africa, we probably will see a smaller menu coming out in September. Still your old favorites with 1 or 2 new menu items, but we take the menu down from, let's say, 65 items down to about 55. And that's just to make sure that we're rationalizing labor costs, but also we're rationalizing food costs. It's all a science. I know a lot of people think that the restaurant business is very romantic and you think of a dish and then you just throw it on, but there's a lot of science that goes behind it, and it's all around menu matrixing and menu engineering.
And before I let you go, you have spoken about expansion plans, into some parts of the Cape here. Let's also talk about, other territories around the world that you're eyeing. We've spoken about the UAE, London. Yeah. Anywhere else, Natasha, that you're thinking about?
So for those who don't know, Tashas Group now has 10 brands, soon to be 11. So, of course, Tashas is the main brand. We have 25 of those across the globe. And we have other brands, Flamingo Room, Avli, Galaxy Bar, Bungalow 34, African Lounge, a new one called Nala. And we've also partnered with a local gentleman in Cape Town. I don't know if anyone knows Uzeri, but a great little restaurant in Cape Town, and we've got plans to expand that. And regions that we're looking at are Cyprus, Greece, Montenegro, Marbella, Monaco, Maldives. We're looking at opening a Galaxy Bar in the Maldives. So we've got big ambitions to grow the brand. Tashas will always be the mother brand, and while we're doing that, very important to make sure that we look after South Africa. I think it's key that the heart and soul of the Tashas brand is South Africa, and for us maintaining our standards here, albeit that we're not seeing the same profit margins as we are in the rest of the world, most specifically in the UAE, that South Africa is really the foundation.
Well, we look forward to seeing it all grow and seeing it all come to fruition, Natasha, especially as you head into that 20-year milestone. Thank you for your time this afternoon. It's been a pleasure. That was founder and CEO of Tashas Group, Natasha Sideris.